So this one is for me. Today is Saturday, October 20th, the day before my autobiographical performance that I'm doing tomorrow. And 2 days ago, I did 2 short 3 to 5 minute segments at a writer's open mic in my town. And I tried out another new idea that I had about how to enter into the story. And I'm feeling good about it. I have been feeling good about it since Monday, since I did a full run of 39-minute run of the show, a version of the show. And the other thing that happened this week was I decided not to look at Facebook at all for 5 days, and it was actually surprisingly easy once I just said I'm not doing this, and I felt so much calmer and happier, and I got so much more done. I'm not really considering deleting my account, but I'm really just very comfortable with thinking about that as not being part of my life. Instagram I still like. I haven't posted on it, but I feel less addicted to it or controlled by it when I'm on it. And what I found, what the biggest difference was that whenever I felt that sense of whether it's boredom or just need for some kind of stimulation that I usually would fill by going to check my phone and scrolling around on Facebook or sharing something on Facebook, I turned to my big 8.5 by 11 sketchbook, blank pages, hardbound, and would just start writing down things with crayon. In crayon, big, different colors, just ideas I was having, thoughts, questions, mainly new ideas. I mean, I just, at one day, I just kind of filled about 20 pages with different new ideas that I've been, considering in various forms. And later in the week, I took action, and then I took more action, and I just realized that it was really derailing me to keep looking at what other people were doing and getting ideas from them, or feeling somehow pulled to do something different because of what I saw other people doing, rather than following through with my own ideas one tiny, tiny step at a time over time. And that's what I'm going to continue to play with, because I know it's not just a 5-day exercise. It's, pretty much the rest of my life. How do I string together these consistent small actions and keep generating new ideas and honoring my ideas? Which brings me to the second big revelation of this week is I picked up a book that I haven't read in, I don't even remember when I got it, probably sometime between 2011 and 2013. But the book was published in 2006 by Barbara Sher. And she's the mother of all life coaches, and she's the real deal. She's 81 now, still traveling, doing workshops, giving seminars. And I read the book. It's called Refuse to Choose. I read the book, and it's all marked up. And at that time, I was still reading things in a very analytical, literal way. And I'm rereading it, and I'm realizing, wow, she's really, really describing me. And I now know from my experience in the last 9 years that I really am a scanner. I haven't gone into her chapters on what type of scanner yet, but I don't really, I'm curious about it, but I don't really need to find the slot that I'm in. The relief comes from realizing that the way my mind works is valid and that there's nothing wrong with me. And the huge weight lifted earlier this week. I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday. I did write it down. I'm not sure. Might have been Wednesday, where I read these first few pages, and that's when I came up with this whole new way that I wanted to tell my story, my performance tomorrow. because I think that at some level, there's a part of me that's been wanting to affirm and agree with this false, or, could be, you could believe it's true, but I believe it's false. The false belief that there's just something wrong with me and I have to find what that is and fix it. And the scanner, the first few chapters, or chapter even, of this Refuse to Choose book really affirmed that my way of working, my way of thinking, my way of generating ideas, my way of being interested in the world, my way of kind of flitting from one thing to the next, like a bumblebee or a hummingbird, which I've always had that image of myself, but is totally not affirmed in society. We call it, the gig economy, or we sort of look downwardly at people and this unfortunate position of having to be creatives, when somehow this wording was so affirmative to me that I looked back on what I've been doing naturally over the last 9 years, and I just said, wow, what if there's nothing wrong with you, Lisa? What if everything you've been doing and the way you've been doing it is exactly who you are and how you're meant to be, and it's just a matter of you seeing that as not flawed and entering the conversation with the world in that way, unapologetically. It's huge, and there's just so many things about the scanner way of thinking and staying with projects and deciding on how to do things that's so counterculture, that it really took her plain language to say, no, this is what Da Vinci was, the Renaissance person. It's something that's lost in our specialist society, specialist focused society, where we're trying to wedge so many people into this one way of thinking, being, and doing, when there's so much vastness beyond that. So that happened, and just a whole other world opened for me, and I'm still in that. And I guess the other thing that happened this week, this is a good list for me to make, because part of the scanner habit of mind is to move on to the next thing and not really look back very often at ourselves to acknowledge what we've actually accomplished, because we don't consider it accomplishments. We just are interested in the moment, and then we move on to the next thing we're interested in the moment, and we're completely involved in that thing for the moment that we're involved in it, and then we don't go back and look back. So I am doing that now, though. So the other thing that happened this week is I finished unpacking all of the cardboard boxes that were from the move in my studio office space, which is where I'm sitting right now. It's so fun. I have, yes, a bookcase right by my computer, which has all my inspirational art and coaching books. And I'll do a video tour of the space some other time. But I have this dual workspace where on one side I have my computer, one side of this drafting table I have my computer, and I walk around to the other side and all of my art supplies are right there. My sketchbook is right there. So I can see all of my work at the same time. And that's so important to me. I realize I'm such a visual person. It took me 35 years to realize that that filing cabinets are like dumpsters to me. I had at one point in my life 2, 4, 6. I owned 6 filing cabinets, large lateral files, like as a person, not a business. Like 6 lateral files where I put everything, but it took me until I was 35 to realize, wow, everything I put in my file cabinet, I never looked at again. Because once I closed the door and never saw the names on the files, they were dead to me because I'm so visual. So now my new office has open shelving with clear storage bins where I can see the contents, and they're also labeled with words. So as I scan the room, I see the words that represent all the materials that I work with and work that I've done and work that inspires me. The spines of books that I love are showing everywhere, and you can see the glass on the bookcase, and my own work is everywhere. And all the materials that I use and I love are everywhere. So I'm constantly visually stimulated and inspired to be more of me. It's awesome. And this is just a bedroom in a home. It's not a separate studio space. that I leave the house for. But when I come in here, I definitely immediately transition into my self, my creative work mode. So that I finally like put up all the shelving and moved all the boxes out of the way, then unpacked the boxes and placed everything on the shelves. And it was a huge 2 whole day, nonstop day process of doing that. And that also happened this week. So the summary is that I think this show, which I started to work on in earnest in April, but really started with my study of psychodrama and drama therapy starting in January, has, whether coincidentally or causally, been associated with tremendous life change. This move, I would say the physical move from one place to the next, which wasn't by design, it was really by response to circumstance, has been miraculous, and in so many ways that I can't even go into in this video. But the physical moving has let me, review all my art materials, and also to acknowledge that all of this art came into my life since I moved to the coast. So less than 6 years ago. Most of my art was 3 to 4 years ago that I started from scratch, from nothing. And so to look at the creative space I'm able to build and work in now is amazing. And then to make choices about, am I going to do more of that? I've worked in a lot of mediums. What am I going to do more of? I can make those choices. I can lighten my load, and I can move forward in a different way. And I can go back. I can change my mind, because as a scanner, my fuel is inspiration and interest. And when I'm interested in something, I dive in and I put myself into it. And I think what's been dragging me down for the last 2 years has been, again, the subconscious fear that comes up that, oh, something's wrong with me. Like, I'm supposed to be this. I'm supposed to be a specialist and go deep. So I put a lot of pressure on myself to professionalize everything that I'm interested in. And that's death to the scanner, because as soon as it's professionalized and forced into some box of specialty and depth, when the purpose of pursuing the interest is to pursue the interest until the reward of being interested is gone for that particular thing, and then to move on to the next interest. When that's your purpose and then you force something else to happen, it dies. And that was just a huge realization, and something I'm really going to be tuning into, because it's really, it has affected every single love and interest that I've pursued in the last 9 years, which has been completely based on my innate instinct and interest and enthusiasm, which is great. So I start things, and then I've been blaming myself for stopping them. I've been blaming myself for giving up or not being professional enough by my previous definition. And I've never had a new way to think of myself, really, as a professional or as a person and walking in this world. And that's been reflected in a lot of ways where I've just not fully shown up with love of myself. I've been forcing myself to be professional illustrator, artist, this, and fit into boxes that other people have, making art in a certain way, showing it in a certain way, selling it in a certain way, calling myself an artist, building your website in a certain way. It just has permeated so deeply into my activities. And it's all slowly been killing off my essence. Ironically, because all of these things come from my essence. So I still love illustration. I still love art. But I'm coming back to what I really love about it, which is a way to record my experience and to get closer to myself. And not about gallery shows, not about selling prints, not about even in a pretty Instagram account, which is all these ways that are available. And I've searched and combed the universe to find ways to be this, to look at how other people are doing it. And finally, this book that's been sitting on my shelf since 10 years ago, comes back into my life, because I have to pick it up to move and I have to take it out of a box to put on the shelf, and I have to notice it and say, God, what was in this book? And what did she say? And then rereading it just rekindled a whole part of me that's wow, thank you. I needed to really, really see that and remember it for the first time. Remember it again for the first time. So there's no pressure to like fix myself and make myself anything other than what I am. And it's so fun. And I use my sketchbook pages as I always have. This was very, very authentic. And it's a Barbara Sher exercise, but I didn't enter into it as that. But to use a sketchbook like Da Vinci's notebooks, where he just gave himself space to build models, discuss, ask questions, write about things he was interested and curious about, design things, invent things, and maybe they never made it out of the pages of the notebook. That's not the point. He thought about them. He gave them his time, attention, and love in the pages of his sketchbook, and he gave himself a place to see his ideas become something by the act of him writing them down and drawing them. And that's what it's about. If that's not what art is, great. I don't need to call it something else. I don't care. It's my art, and it's what I do, and every time I really drop into that process for myself, I am full. I'm nourished. I'm happy. I don't need to do anything. I don't need other people to do stuff. I've given myself the love that I want, that I crave, and then I'm ready to go out in the world and have different conversations as me loving me honoring my ideas and not being so thirsty and hungry for other people to give something to me that I haven't given to me. So all of that this week, that was big. And yeah, tomorrow's the show. So I did a great, long, amazing hike from the front door of my house to the mountains, to the beach. It was amazing. That's another whole story. And that somehow seemed important to me, to just walk as a way to ground myself and prepare myself to love myself on the stage tomorrow as I tell my story in whatever way it comes out. And I'm really focusing on, having fun playing with ways of telling my story rather than trying to memorize something. I'm very curious about the different ways to communicate what I've experienced in my life, and what I'm learning. And so I'm going to do it. And this was fun just to review the week, because I've been meaning to do it since yesterday. I know it's been a big week, so I'm glad I made this video, and maybe I'll post it.